Okay, ladies and gents, welcome to another video. A highly requested video, I have to say. What we're going to do today is a low stakes play and explain, focused on exploiting recreationals and weaker players. I've written down a couple of key points that we're going to try and cover in this play and explain. I think I'm going to take things to the absolute extreme where I can. So I will preface this with like a little bit of a don't try this at home. Like this play and explain, I'm going to be going exploits to the max to get into as many spots as possible. So it's, you know, the best value for you guys watching. But there are going to be some spots where I probably will do some pretty wild shit for the sake of it. So yeah. Spoiler alert, if you will. What are we going to cover then? So, I mean, we just talked about it a little bit. Max exploits are the way to go versus recreationals. This is because there's no future game, because recreationals, you know, they're there and then they're not. They're like a shooting star in the sky. They're not around for very long, but when they are, it tends to be very special. And they're also not on the level to figure you out. So you can get away with some pretty face-up shit. You know, it's going to be face-up to me. It's going to be face-up to you guys watching. But to your average recreational who's just focused on what hand they have, they're not going to be able to figure out what you're doing. And therefore, we can go and exploit to the max. So that's what we're going to try and do today. How are we going to do it? You can bluff recreationals more than you think, but set your expectations. So hopefully I illustrate this throughout, but very often with recreationals, we are trying to fold their air and their ace highs. We're not really trying to make them fold pairs very often. So bear this in mind. If you get to the river and your recreational friend only has pairs, you probably shouldn't be bluffing them because they're going to call more often than theory would. Likewise, or flipping it, you don't fold to recreationals very often. Both of these things are just down to the fact that they play too many hands. So recreationals overbluff pretty much everywhere. Where you want to fold to recreationals is to fast bets and big sizes. So if you see pot or overbet very quickly, you're probably going to be in trouble. So you want to fold there. But if you face, half pot, which is what you're going to face very often, you really want to station. But also just station early for the reason of recreationals will tell you what they have. Right, so they will size specifically to what they're trying to achieve, or specifically to what their hand is, or just specifically to whatever they feel like doing. But they will tell you what they have, and you can range them very accurately. So sometimes I'm going to float really wide on the flop or pre-flop or whatever, because I'm just going to allow them to tell me what they have, and then I'm going to act accordingly. And this is where we can bluff them. This is where we can go thin for value, whatever it might be. The key is just be creative, right? So, max exploits, exploitative poker is creative poker. You don't have to just go bet jam. There are many things that you can do to be creative and to put these guys into the blender and win all the money. At the end of the day, recreationals are where your money comes from when you play poker. If you say otherwise, you're wrong. So knowing how to play these guys is really important. So hopefully in the next 45 minutes we'll illustrate it. So let's jump in. We're gonna do 50 zoom, I think, is a nice sort of limit, whereby there's going to be lots of recreationals, but also it's still it's going to be a limit you guys play a lot. A lot of the people watching, I'm sure, are going to watch my YouTube videos, are not going to be playing 2NL and have a very passing interest in poker. I think people who watch my YouTube videos are generally going to be pretty on it with poker and looking to get better. So I think 50 NL is a nice limit. Plus, I can't be asked to play 5 NL. So we're going to 3-bet our ace, 8-7 versus this unknown chap from the UK. Could be a reg, might not be. We've got two very recreational players here, one especially in the big blind, so we're going to open the Jack-6 and just look to play a pot. Don't know this guy, so just going to start with the range bet and go from there. unfortunately, with the Jack-6, we're going to be folding to the lead. I have to draw the line somewhere. So pink is like very recreational, VIP. Green is just your standard recreational. If you see like purple, it's like semi-recreational. Those are generally going to be the main tags that you need to worry about in this video, because there's any of the regs I'm not really going to have tagged. This looks like a reg, I would say, yeah, Thailand 29-24. We are going to just play exploitative poker, so we are going to try and exploit the regs as well, because, you know, if you're playing 50 NL, you're going to be weaker than playing 500 NL, of course. So we're going to try and put these guys into the blender as well. We're just going to try and do it in a different way. So we get the flop over bet here. My general musing would be that if a reg is doing this, it's going to be a bit higher, a bit more equity driven than it maybe should be. Jack turn, we're just going to lead our range. I mean, you know, we'll test the theory of how equity driven it is, but Jack turn is just us, so we can just lead our range here. And opponent calls. How much showdown do we have? I think I would bluff. Miss Diamonds would be the play. It's not a great river either. I think we got a little bit of showdown as well versus his Miss Diamonds. We're going to lose to ace high a lot. It's kind of a weird size to pick. I think it's probably just a bit greedy. Because, like, if you were going to bluff, surely you'd bluff a bit cheaper here. We're, like, in the Wild West a little bit. I think it's just like, oh, he thinks I have a jack and he has a king and he's getting the max. It just looks kind of greedy. If he'd have bet smaller, I would have considered calling, I'm not going to lie. But, hey-ho. Right, so we've got a recreational from Greece here. I think I'm just going to start small. Okay, so really interesting here. We get the snap call, which is very often like an indicator of mid-strength, like he has something of something here. King 9's kind of awkward. I think it's probably best as a check versus the snap continue. So it's going to be like it's still going to be like a lot of gut shots and so on. He bets small on the river, and this is like kind of what we're talking about with like don't fold versus recreationals, because this is likely to just be like a king 10 or something like that. Obviously, it's still going to be, you know, queen 10 and so on, but yeah, 6-5 makes sense. Quads is a good hand. Guessing this guy is a reg. Judging by like the avatar UK and the way he's kind of played the other hand before as well. I think I might just go a little sneaky check here, let him catch up with like ace king kind of hands. And I can always get the money in on the river. Avatar read says fish, but Belarus is usually reg. So it's interesting, kind of interested to see what he does here. At this point, I think my opponent just has ace high. So we're just going to bet according to that. Maybe like a pocket sevens that he doesn't want to block or something, but very often it's just like an ace queen there or something. So here we are, 3 ways. Recreational bets half pot, which is not going to be overly strong as a general rule of thumb. So this guy was the guy from before with the straight, where he sized small on the river, but the flush did complete. And recreationals do get very scared of flushes completing. This guy overcalling is interesting. Yeah, so I think this is a reg. I'm not going to tag him because he's not playing in my games, but avatar, it's interesting because the avatar is usually fish when these like you have these auto-generated ones. This is just really strong at this point for him to call and then get the queen and then lead with a fish in the pot. I don't think we need to worry too hard about that one. I think it's just like a lot of random king, queen, ace, queen. Maybe like a king, jack or something as well, perhaps. But I don't think we need to defend there. A good rule of thumb for like multi-way is when you multi-way with a reg and a fish, like the regs will often underbluff. So you can be quite tight as a general rule. It's the same dudes. Let's start with a 3-bet. Interesting size. So I'm gonna call, even though it's 50 NL, and you know you can talk about well, people don't 4-bet enough at 50 NL and so on. I think later positions, like I think people are capable of finding the ace-10 offs here, and we get a great price in position. So folding ace-jack's kind of out of the question. This is a position where I probably would start folding a bit more, to be fair. So just going to call with the ace-jack. We'll see a very, very poor turn. Interesting, he checks. I'm going to stab. Not because I think I'm going to get masses of fold just yet. Okay. Just because basically if he check calls, then I think we're going to just drill it on the majority of rivers. But versus check jam, we just fold and move on with our day. Here with 2 recs, we'll go multi-way. I think it's okay. I think if this guy was a reg and this guy was the recreational, I'd squeeze all day. Okay, bet half pot and call. Yeah, I don't think we're going to be doing much there. Pretty slow start, eh? Okay, another reg. C-betting just jack 10's fine for what it's worth. I'm not, you know, spinning RNGs or anything like that today. We're just kind of doing whatever we feel like. Check call, check raise, or bet. I think bet's better here, to be fair. Just in check call, it's kind of grim. Check raise is kind of grim too. See if we can just fold out like ace high on the turn here. Random king high, whatever. Pocket twos. It was unfortunately a very, very poor river. So I think as a general rule, we'll probably just fold, check fold. Even the sizings we've gone, I think, you know, 50 NL, I probably have narrowed this guy's range a little bit too much. And it's a really bad river to just bluff on anyway. So if I think I've narrowed his range a little bit too much on flop and turn compared to, you know, someone who plays higher, then I think, you know, their range is going to be a bit stronger here on the river. Bad river anyway, so I think just giving up is sweet. Nice hand to you, sir. Alright. Yeah, I think c-bet the flop here is going to be fine. Bit of protection. A bit of value as well. We're going to check the turn. As a general sort of rule. Okay, we're going to get 2 small streets here, I think. As a general sort of rule, you can c-bet really often versus recreationals because they just play way too many hands. I think 1.5 big blinds trying to get cut by ace king is fine here. So when you think about like c-betting and the theory of it and so on, right, which will help you for playing against recreationals, funnily enough. If I think squeeze here is great. This guy looks kind of nitty, so this calling range actually might be, well, it will contain some stronger hands by the looks of things, but still think we can squeeze. How range betting works is you have an equity advantage, right? So, and there's a lot of air in your opponent's range. That's generally when you'll get to range bet. So very often when we open and the big blind calls, or the recreational calls in the big blind, except for this here where we are taking the piss and just opening really wide, generally we're going to open like a similar range to the one we'd usually open, right? A little bit wider. But recreationals are going to call ridiculously wide. So therefore, on most flops, like this kind of flop, they actually have just a shed load of air in their range. And therefore, you get to c-bet a little bit more often. Let's start with c-bet here as well. So kind of a cool spot here with the call and then the lead's interesting. So I think just call and try and get there is going to be the play. So this guy, as I say, VIP, very, very aggressive by the looks of things. So I'm not even in a massive hurry to fold the river here with king high. Usually these min 3 bets are just really sort of like mid-strength. So we'll bear that in mind. Here's half pot on the river. My only worry is I might lose to the occasional bluff here. Check call, check quick call versus small. Lead half on the turn, half on the river. I think I'm actually calling here. It might look very, very stupid. We'll see, but yeah. I just think, again, when you're playing like a VIP opponent, like he'll just show you all kinds of random nonsense. As I say, the only real worry here is that I might lose to bluffs sometimes. But he could just show like endless amounts of just random whatever in this kind of spot. So I'm actually okay with calling. Okay, yeah, 2 recreationals, obviously horrendous price, horrendous hand, but we will go multi-way here. Again, we're just looking to play as many pots as we can with recreationals. So, like, I don't mind making losing quote-unquote calls pre, because I expect to make up that EV post-flop. And oftentimes, like, you're losing calls pre, they don't lose much. So really interesting, we get the half pot here, which could be a lot of stuff, and we get the snap call here, which is likely going to be like an 8, some pocket pair, some kind of flush draw, and so on. Very unlikely to be strong. So I think we go raise here, fold this guy out quite a lot, and then make this guy play turns and rivers. Obviously, the primary plan is to turn a 4, but... So it's just one of those where you can pay attention to like the timings, like snap call. He's just always kind of just mid-strength. Like he's never considered raise, right? So you can just rule out 7x immediately. And this guy betting half pot on the flop, which recreationals love to do, could just be a whole host of random shit. So raise there looks quite nice. Over here with the 6-2 opening, so we can play pots with Mr. Brazil here, and we'll start with a call. And again, the plan is just to try and get there, but also to allow him to give us lots of information. So this is interesting again, right? He's bet half pot on the flop and then potted the turn on the 4. Why has he potted the turn, right? That would indicate his hand has actually, you know, gone up in value. So I think I'm actually just going to fold here versus the pot, and a quick pot like that without any immediate reads. because even getting there might be horrendous at that point. If we did river a, you know, a 3, how good is it actually going to be? Probably not bad, obviously, but until we know a little bit more about this guy, I don't think we're gonna, you know, we'll just take his turn pot at face value there, and it's probably just quite strong. So this guy looks like a reg, no, some kind of 50NL reg. So just range bet. Versus this guy, yeah, we'll defend. Paying attention to the sizing, like recreationals again, even just with their pre-flop sizing, we'll do different things with different parts of their range. 6s, we're just looking for showdown now. Okay, so immediately, right, remember the hand before where we were multi-way and this guy went half pot when we had the 6-5, right? Now he goes pot on king 7-3, right? So again, we're thinking, okay, half pot and then you follow it to the check raise. If he pots it, it's probably stronger. So we're bearing it in mind. That's not going to be a great turn with that in mind. Just call in the 6s and you can show me all the jack 10 off that you like. Ace 5's nice. So pot flop check turn. Interesting. Might be slow playing. I'll take the free card. I've still got showdown value as well versus, like, you know, 2 hearts or whatever else it might be. Quick check on the river. Okay, so maybe just a random give up. And we'll just check and hope. We'll just do aces, right? So, again, like, interesting just to look at the sizings. Like, half pot here to fold, pot. He knows aces, right? And then he shit himself when the king came, funnily enough. But that's like case in point of how these guys are going to play. So pay attention at all times to sizings versus recreationals. Like, they will 100% just tell you what they have. So act accordingly. And this frees you up to bluff them more when you realise, oh, actually that size is probably just going to be a little bit weaker. Okay, so again, avatar read, auto-generated avatar, generally going to be a fish. Snap check on the flop kind of indicates he's not really interested. So let's min bet him and see if we can induce something here. Okay, so it does call, I think, a fair amount of ace high. Still definitely going to value bet. I think 2.5 or something like that to get a crying call from ace high feels good. Lovely stuff. Hey. Oh, that was passive, wasn't it? So interesting, you know, I'm not going to take any notes here, but you take, like, when you're playing, again, if you're a note taker, take a note on that, or a mental note at least. This guy, unbelievably passive, right? Like, I min bet the turn and he's, you know, just calling with the ace high flush draw there. Like, a lot of people would, you know, go, well, I've got a flush draw, he's min bet, I'm going to raise. So passive would be the read on this guy, and then, you know, moving forward from that, we're going to front load our aggression versus him more. So we're just going to, you know, size bigger when we have it and don't really check to him because he'll just check back. Going multi-way here with 2s. That's a very bad turn generally. Some kind of, yeah, 50NL reg, Brazil. I mean, if I'm going to bluff a hand, A7 would be pretty much top of the list, I think. So we'll go for it. Not the best turn in the world, but I'm sweet with this. And yeah, I think just follow through the river. I still think he's got a lot of pair plus draw that we can fold out here. Some flush draws and so on. Decent river. Don't think we need to go too big. Not really targeting a king here. So just going to go for this. How to get the max with pocket 7s. Let's go for a min bet, 3 bet, shall we? See, we want him to try. We want to try and get him to raise top pair. This is the very swift call. I think we're just going to go pretty big now. Don't think he's going to fold too many draws here. Obviously, like King Jack, of course, he's going to fold, but I think he turns a bit of equity on the 9. Might pick up 2 pair on the 9, whatever, but we want to start piling the money in when he just check calls 1. You know, we went for the induce on the flop. The idea basically with the min bet is just to get him to raise like ace-5 off, and then we 3-bet him, and then he's fucked. But he didn't take the bait, probably because he didn't have ace-5 off or something along those lines. So now I just think we need to start putting the money in, kind of just trying to find the sweet spot between like, okay, you know, what size is he going to still call Jack 10? What size is he still going to potentially call a queen? I'm going to check this one back actually, just as like a little bit of information. See if we can get something from this. Like King 10's an okay hand to check back as well. Okay, so double check. Yeah, I think I'm just going to check again and just call on the river. See if we can induce a bluff here. We also dominate like his folding region. And on the river, we're just going to raise because this is likely to be a worse 10, judging by the speed of that. So we'll go for this. Lovely stuff. So again, something you can do, like I'm just expecting 9-10 off, I guess. 10-7 off, there you go. So like, you don't have to, if you don't want to, you know, c-bet the flop like this board. Again, it kind of helps to know your theory, right? Ace-high boards. You get a lot of check in general, and these kind of hands do like checking back because they dominate the fucking folding region. And, you know, as I say, it's like case in point. I don't mind giving him 2 free cards here and then drawing to the second best hand. There's no real need to put any money in on the turn. I think I played with this guy higher. So we'll still go along the lines of exploitative. We're just going to be a bit more sneaky. I'm going to flat here because I want to play more with this dude. That's a very good board for me. Turkmenistani. Start with a check. And we'll just kind of block infinitely here. It's annoying. I wanted to raise, but we can't now. Nice hand. Block over here. Still think we're going to get called by enough random nonsense. Random 10x. Random 2 pairs. Random ace king, whatever it might be. Cool. Who are you? Oh, the Argentinian guy. All right. What do you have? Queen 8. Yeah, fair enough. Looks like a nice raise, doesn't it? Queen 8. There we go. Not living our life here. Versus that, and say that much. All right, let's play a 4-bet pot. Not loving this at all, but just try and pay attention to how quickly he does this. I was going to say the longer the better, but then when he goes half pot, that's kind of devastating. I'm going to lose absolutely no sleep. Just check folding there. Just if he's got ace king, he's got ace king, or you know, if he's got I don't even fucking know, ace 7 of diamonds or whatever, you know, like if he's found the half pot on the flop with that kind of region of hand, more power to him. But I think this is like a classic spot, like versus, you know, a weaker reg, should we say, or I don't want to say weaker because it might be offensive, but like a a lower stakes reg, I think the mistake that, you know, I mean, you could argue just for folding pre, to be fair, but I think there's a little bit of merit to, you know, going post flop and kind of getting a little bit of info from him, because I think most 50NL regs are not going to be too studied in 4-bet pots and are likely just going to do what their hand wants to do. So, you know, I think unconsciously, like half pot might not be his only sizing. I don't know if he's studied this particular spot, you know. I think half pot is likely just to be, okay, I've got queens and it goes. So like you would look at this and in a solver, you'd probably just get this in, right? And you move on and you know, you could get this in and then you get shown kings and you're like, I don't know. Go and look at it in the solve later on. You'd be like, yep, this is fine. But I think reality land, folding's probably your best option, which really sucks. But just avoid these kind of spots, avoid strength here. Again, you could make the argument for folding pre, and I wouldn't hate that at all versus that kind of sizing. But yeah, it's just going to be very, very strong. Could do some node locking with it if you really want to, but low stakes, you don't need to put the money in here. You really don't. And oftentimes, as I say, it's best off just avoiding these spots, avoiding the strength of this range with marginal sort of get-ins like this. It's basically this kind of mistake. I've done it a million times. I've played lots of 50NL in my life, right? I have been there, I've done it, I've got this in, and I've been shown kings. And it's just not amazing at all. And I coach people, I've coached people in the past, and you get sent hands like this all the time, and it's kind of like, can I get away from this? Solver says to do this, solver says to do that. Just treat it as what it is. It looks very strong. It probably is very strong. It's okay to fold jacks here. You are allowed to fold jacks. Also a question I get asked a lot. This is a bit of a monologue now. But like, am I allowed to fold here? Oh, you know, what if I get bluffed? Am I allowed to fold? You're allowed to do whatever you fucking want, right? You don't have to do anything. If you think folding is going to make you the most amount of money, right? I know folding makes zero, but if you think like getting it in loses, then just fold. Do what makes the most money. Mr. Correa from Argentina, feel free to show me that you had ace king off, and I will say nice hand. But yeah, hello if you're watching, and feel free to tell me what your strategy is and stuff like that here, because as I say, I've made a pretty big deviation here. You know, it could be wrong, but based on how I would view 50NL players and such, I don't think I am wrong. This is your passive guy from before. I think multi-way with 7-6 is fine. And let's go sort of, yeah, range bet-ish. Yeah. And we're out. Bit of a time bank there from this guy. So obviously it could be between raise and call, or could be between call and fold. Generally it's going to be between call and fold. So I think our hand makes an okay barrel anyway. I really think it would just make sense to just barrel this based on how long he took. Could just be he takes this long anyway. Yeah, it looks like he's taking quite a long time anyway. I think our hand makes a good bluff at this point. King's a very good river. I think we can just go and bluff this. Sizing wise, I actually just don't mind small. We're kind of just like, what do you do with Jack 10? What do you do with 2 spades? You know, I think this is fine. And this is kind of the size that I would want to bet with like aces, or like ace king if we have that, or whatever. Maybe even like a king queen or something. I would want to bet this size when the flush completes. And nice hand to you, sir. Guy's played a lot of hands so far. Yeah, I think we'll try and isolate him and play post. Obviously, absolutely loosey-goosey. But don't mind. I mean, basically, the more, you know, the more fishy your opponent is, the more out of line we can get. The bigger your post-flop edge, the more you can deviate pre-flop. Probably a better way of putting it. Who we got here? United Kingdom. Snakes with a snake avatar, eh? Looks like some kind of regular. Let's play a 4-bet pot. Generally, 50 and our reg, just going to overfold to 4-bets on the aggregate. So, you know, versus the regs that you play at these stakes, you could probably get out of line a little bit with your 4-bets. Ace-9 seems as good as any. As far as 50 NL pulls go, right, this isn't the greatest in the world. Not gonna lie. I messed around last night playing in 50 NL for a little bit. And it was much more recreational than this one is, but I'm recording now, so we'll stick with it. Still plenty of good stuff in this, so. Okay, so recreation up here. Let's start with a range bet and go from there. I think that's going to be all right with a gut shot to the nuts. Come on, we want some more post-flop stuff, please. Oh, that's fun. All right, so definite recreational here. Gives us the snap call. Don't have any reads on him just yet. Let's start with a check, because basically here with check, I'm just kind of checking for information, see how quickly he checks or bets, or what size he bets, and so on. And we have a hand that, you know, can always just continue versus bet. We are not loving our life here versus pot. I'm actually tempted to fold. Yeah. Yeah. The issue is with pot is that obviously it's strong. It was quick. It was you know, quick and big is usually strong. And also, like, when recreationals do bet, they often follow through the turn quite often. Even though it might not be for pot anymore, like, you know, a gut shot is not necessarily amazing. And I don't have the read yet that he's a massive, you know, whopper. So don't actually mind check folding though. Obviously we can check call versus pretty much any size. And we can, you know, you can argue for check call versus pot and develop the read. But it is definitely close. It's already strong, essentially, so, you know, deviate as such. Let's play a call. Okay, so check calling the 9-5. Interesting. So maybe a reg, some kind of reg. It's a fucking good run out that, isn't it? I think we'll go check raise. Unfortunately, I just think he's got loads of air. I think he value bets an ace, but I don't think he has much of it. Wow, okay. Just absolutely snap. Snap gave up the jack 10 off, which is, you know, it's not the worst thing in the world, but mental note, just really passive. I never even thought about bluffing the river. 7-4 will come along for the ride because this guy is hugely recreational. So flopping a pair or 2 pair is going to be worth a stack very often. All right. Yeah, I think we're just ISO here. It's going to go multi-way a fair bit, to be fair, but I think we're in position, so I'm okay with it. Okay, so cold call, really wide look. Limp call here is going to be quite narrow, to be fair, but I think we can start small and then take it from there. Okay, so really quick call. Relatively quick call, queen turn. Annoying, I was going to barrel. At this point, we are just going to go away. Our very, very passive friend from before hits us with a big check raise, and that'll be us out of the hand. Don't really need to think about that one. If you'd have bluffed Jack 10, I might have considered continuing there, but not so much. Okay, let's go for a 4-bet to 26.5. Seems about money, a little bit deeper. All right. Okay, limp. Nice little pro tip. Versus the vast majority of recreationals, you can just ISO any 2 versus a limp. So feel free to do so. It's just an unbelievably profitable spot. But literally any 2, or whatever you're comfortable with, but as wide as possible would be my advice. Because they limp fold, they limp too wide. They have, you know, they're gonna have a raising range as well. The raising range is going to contain most of their strong hands, so just ISO them and proceed from there. Yeah, let's call the 3s versus Argentina. Interesting flop. Interesting. Really indecisive there. I think we're just going to lead small with our range and just put him in the absolute blender with like ace, queen, no heart or whatever. A very poor river, isn't it? Ace queen with a heart. Ace jack. Yeah, it's a very bad river. I mean, we're never betting. I'm just kind of considering if I want to do funky shit. I'm actually gonna go for a little like bit of sort of value-ish here, because I think he just got a lot of like random gut shots in his range. So like bet and then check, and probably call on quite a lot of runouts. Yeah, definitely that one. Jam. I mean, I don't have to call. Jam. Okay. Kind of mental. Kind of makes me feel like it's fucking full of shit, but I think threes is there is a huge danger that he may bluff something better for a jam there, so don't have to ever defend that. Although I kind of want to. Here we get the quick call from the recreational. I'm just going to continue betting sort of medium here. Again, it's going to be quite mid-strength. If we get raised, we might be in trouble, but just lots and lots and lots of value to be still had there. Who's this dude? So again, we're going to call one with the tens, but like big blind 3-bet is generally going to be very strong. So, you know, proceed with caution. I mean, tens can turn a 10, for example, so I don't never mind floating one, but we are going to be folding like every bet on the turn, on every turn other than a 10 really. Happened here. So we see bet the flop for a bit of protection, and then we face a half pot lead on the turn, so that's probably recreational. Kind of interesting. Feels stronger, but we'll try and get there. Kind of do get there. Okay. Yeah, makes sense. Again, just being out of line, really don't care what hand I have here. I just want to fold and call, and then we'll go from there. That's a shame. As I say, this is, you know, mentioned at the start, like a don't try this at home, but the spot, you know, squeeze as wide as you possibly can. This is obviously kind of pushing it, but we'll live, especially when we get the half pot donk lead on an ace-high board. You don't want that, but sometimes they just have it. But generally, you know, squeeze really wide there. But yeah, in a normal session, if that was, you know, the recreational in the small blind and a reg on the button, I wouldn't be squeezing queen 8 off. But as I say, you know, I mentioned it at the start, a lot of this is sort of for the video. Really want to be in the pot here, so I think I'm actually going to limp. So again, something you can definitely do, like, you know, table full of recreationals. It's a hand that doesn't really make a lot of money opening, but I think you can, with the reg in the big blind, I don't really want to raise, call, squeeze, but limp is definitely going to be fine. I think queen 9 is actually just like really good to go multi-way. Pots the river. You're not going to have much ace-x. This is kind of like a river 2 pair or random straight. just pot it. Pot is horrendous. It could just be any two. Yeah, I think we're going to call. I don't love it. Yeah. What goes against call is obviously the sizing and the speed of which he did it, but like when he's just got any two here, you know, it's kind of easy to do this and overbluff. Think I'm actually going to try and make him fold a pair here with this one. He does have a fair amount of straights, don't get me wrong, but like I think if we can fold like, you know, ace 6, 7, 6, pocket fucking 8, I don't know. I think we're doing okay. Or even just ace high. So what was it? Yeah, with our limp, again, like definitely something you can do. Like if you know, kind of just what I don't want to happen here is raise, call, call, fold, squeeze, for example, or raise, call, call, squeeze from this regular looking chap down here. But we can, but I don't want to fold because there's 3 recreationals at the table, so we can mitigate all of that by limping and then just, you know, let's go multi-way, let's play a pot. Like I do this live quite a bit where, you know, if there's like 3 recreationals at the table and I have a hand that wants to just, you know, play a pot, but maybe doesn't want to open and just go 5 ways anyway, I will often limp. We're going to pile the money in here, obviously with ace queen. So this guy looks more passive. The strategy in theory is to just go big anyway very often, but like passive guy, just put the money in and let him make the decision. I was kind of terrified that he was going to jam there and just have a 2, but so, you know, pre-flop, just in general, just be really flexible. There's lots of weird and wonderful stuff you can do. Annoyingly, I was going to bluff that river and I might not now. Quick call. Nah, again, I think I can just bluff this. Like, and get him to fold everything here. It just never has a flush. And if he does just have like 2 9s or something, I think I can actually make that kind of recreational fold back there. Again, he has no flushes in this line. No recreationals don't really tend to, you know, slow play flush draws all that much, at least. And they also, as I say, recreational mentality, they get scared of flushes completing. One thing that I don't think I mentioned at the start, which is like super important, is you just try and understand like the mentality of a recreational. Try and understand what goes through their head. So particularly important when you play live, because you get to hear it all the time. You know, for those of you that play online at 50NL or whatever, just go play 1-2 live, just one session or whatever it is, you know, for 6 hours, whatever, and listen to the recreationals at the table talk about their hands, right? And then you will get a really good insight into how they think about the game. And if you understand how recreationals think about the game, you can then exploit them super hard, right? So you'll hear things like, I put you on ace king, right? Which is the classic cliche of they call the river with 3rd pair and they're like, I'll put you on ace king, right? So you can use that to your advantage. Number one, you know, don't try and fold them off pairs very often. I know I, you know, just did this down here, but don't try and fold them off pairs all that often. But number two, when the ace or the king comes, you can represent that, right? Like, they're scared of ace king. So, you know, on those cards which look scary, rep it. Like, that's one you can follow through with bluffs on. Or, you know, I did this to find out where I was at, right? So, you know, sometimes small leads or small random bets or whatever, they're just trying to figure out where they were at, right? So use that to your advantage. Raise them and tell them where they're at, you know? Loads and loads and loads of things that you can do. but just listen. Listen to them talk about hands and be a sponge, right? Because the more you understand about how these guys think, the more you can exploit it. Just going to go for showdown here, I think. I'm going to get shown a jack quite a bit, but I'm going to overbet this one. This is a reg, and I just expect to kind of just be printing here when we go overbet. Again, like pre-flop, just going multi-way, a couple of fish in the blinds, so don't mind going multi-way here. Again, you know, be flexible. What did you have? 10-9. Yeah, I mean, again, that's just really passive, man. Like, we could, I mean, it looks like a very nice turn barrel. Looks like a pretty good river bluff in this line as well, and so on. Very passive. How often am I going to raise the turn if I check? Let's go for a dirty little check. Could see bet by all means. Like, it's not like it has a lot of EV in this line, but I think we can go into this line as well every now and again. So 2 checks. Now we just delay C bet really wide. The double checking range is not going to be that strong. It's going to be really annoying when he raises us, but because my spidey senses are tingling, but there we go. Very, very good river. So we got the time bank on the turn, like time bank call, kind of indecisive, gonna be really weak. Scare card river, gonna follow through. Are you good enough to call me with ace 10? Fair play if he is. But I don't think he is, but obviously if he has a king, he has a king. Nice hand from him, I think very well played hand for what it's worth. Maybe even raised a river, to be honest. Probably, it was close, but yeah. If you're watching Sammy, maybe raised the river, but well played from him. But I think, as I say, just in general, you get, again, pay attention to that timing. He was very indecisive on the turn there, so obviously this time it didn't work out, but in general, you can just follow through here really often, and it's going to be very profitable, especially on a king. But say if the river comes a 3, you might not want to follow through as much. On board, you know, on that kind of spot where nothing changes, he might get a little bit tempted with like his ace highs and his pairs and so on. Wow, we're on 58 minutes. Let's do, yeah, set our next big blind, to be fair. I have to go and do other things, unfortunately. But I think, as I say, it wasn't like, you know, all action this, but I think we covered quite a lot of shit. So hopefully this was beneficial. Let me know what you think, essentially. A lot of Wild West poker without anything too, you know, crazy post-flop, I guess, but lots to talk about and hopefully lots to learn from. Yeah, not going to put any money in with the Jack 8. This is interesting. This is probably just bullshit. This guy's just bet at every opportunity. And this is just not strong. Yeah, I think we're actually just going to raise here. Like when it goes check, check on the flop, 5 on the turn, check twice, half pot. I just don't think this is strong. River is bad, don't get me wrong. But I think we can bluff here. Trying to make him fold ace high and hearts on the river here. Not going to make him fold that, unfortunately. Definitely a weak range, and you could argue we could definitely make the argument for going bigger on the river. To try and make him fold this kind of hand, but I'm still okay with the fact it's just a weak range, and if we barrel the river, we might get him to fold this kind of hand, but it's kind of a bonus. But just, you know, as I say, on the turn here, going max exploit, taking advantage of the fact that, you know, he's checked the flop and then he's bet the turn. for half pot when people have checked twice. It's just very weak. Yeah, obviously really bad river. Could have just done with a different river, annoyingly. We might have got it through. Kind of the same point I think I made before, you know, like you do have to be careful of the river, because like when you do get this kind of river, recreationals will be very static with their pairs. Whereas if the river was like, you know, the Jack of Hearts or something like that, you're going to have no problem folding them off freeze at that point. But as I say, I still stand by. I think we can get away with a river bet here, because I think he's just going to have a lot of ace-x that calls or turn flush draws that then fold. So I'm okay with it. You might argue that I may have gone a little bit too big if I'm just targeting that region, but then I also, you know, I think we maybe can fold a hand like the one he has. So don't need to go too big, and it's definitely about as big as I want to go, essentially. Yeah, I think we'll just fold the ace-8. And yeah, hello, Mr. Alan. Alan on 85, I think that's probably the best way of saying your name. Hello. Hope you enjoyed the video. So we just check raise jack high on the turn and follow through the river. But there we go. I've justified it as much as I possibly can. So there. Right, GG guys. I hope, as I say, that video was beneficial. Please let me know in the comments below if you think it was. Please also let me know if you think, you know, this is just a complete mega punt and I don't know what I'm doing. As I say, you know, all comments welcome. Let me know if you want to see a similar sort of video in the future, or maybe like a, you know, hand history review or something in the future. Whatever it is, let me know. Enjoy your what day is it? Wednesday. Enjoy your Wednesday. Have fun. Love you, miss you. See you all on the next.